If you're not, having people in this room are coders, can sling code very well. Okay, hi all four of you. For everyone else in the room, chances are you will not be working with these directly, but you have someone or you know someone who can or who will get their help, because APIs are how you can talk to major applications like Facebook. You can talk to Twitter, you can talk to anything that publishes the API there, and the things you can do with them are downright frightening. Here, for example, is a Facebook fan page, right? You can get some data about people who are fans and stuff like that, but it's not really all that interesting. Now, let's look what an API will let you collect. If you write a Facebook application, you can collect everything that anyone ever published about their Facebook profile using the API, including things that they opted out on their privacy profiles, because applications have their own privacy settings, which in most cases are none. If you have any of this stuff in your profile, every time you install a Vampire BitU application, every time you install a share this, or I voted for Sarah Palin, or whatever, as soon as you install an app, you can imagine all of this that is in your profile is going down to a giant database of whoever made that application. This is what APIs can do. If you write for them, you get all this data. If you are an independent musician and you don't have an application of some kind, hire someone to write one for you, because in there are musical preferences. You can figure out other people who are your fans, what other groups do they listen to? Do a statistical correlation and say, okay, now that I know that, say, Matthew Eagles fans also tend to like Ben Folds, let's go find everyone else who's a Ben Folds fan, because there's a good probability they'll like his music. These are all things you can do. If you're looking for people's sexual orientation, you can find it there. You can find they like bunnies. It's in there. Trend number 5, data. Data is getting cheaper and cheaper to store every year. You can get more storage for less every single year in volumes and sizes that are just unimaginable. I went to Best Buy earlier to get a flash drive for the downstairs bench desk. I got a 2 gigabyte flash drive. I think it was one of those old things next to the gum rack now. 2 gigabytes is next to the gum. That's how cheap data storage is. And it's about the same price. What does that mean for you? If you are not collecting every single piece of information that you possibly can about your business, about your customers, about your members, you need to. The data storage is practically free. Even if you're not going to use the information right now, collect it anyway, because 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, you may say, that actually is something that is important that we want to talk about. But if you have the data collected now, it will work much better for you. This one is interesting, trust. These guys wrote a book about it. We're not going to talk about that, but we'll let them talk about it later on. What we're going to talk about, though, is the evolution of social networks and layers of trust. Right now, there's a very, very brief window of opportunity, I would say probably another 6 to 12 months left in it, where you can get access to people that you have absolutely no right to have access to. You know, if you go to their offices and stuff and say, hey, can I talk to the CEO of X corporation? They will call security and they'll move you. But you can find them on Twitter because they're still trying to figure out what Twitter is all about. You can find them on Facebook because they haven't quite figured out what it's all about. Get into those networks now. Make those connections now while you can, while the window is still open, while there's disruption. People are going, who knows anything about Twitter in the Fortune 500? Please come see me. I'm the CEO of AT&T, and I'd really like to know whether I should be using it or not. Right? Any one of you in the room could be that person, as long as you're paying attention. The window of opportunity is very, very narrow. What you need to do is take time now to build your own networks and hubs. Gather up every single person in this room and get in touch with them. If you go to the Podcast Boston registration page, we have all our Twitter handles and stuff on there. Please, by all means, follow each other, get to know each other this weekend, because there are a number of people here, you can't see it, but I can, who are CEOs, who are very, very important folks. They're probably sitting right next to you right now. Get to know them while you can, because that opportunity is going to go away. The last thing is a very important trend. It's kind of fun. It's called the inheritance of awesome. And this is something that I was discussing in my Warcraft guild with one of our friends, Bryce Moore, who plays a squid. Awesome is, social networks are funny. Social networks and social media are defined by the fact that they have absolutely no value whatsoever by themselves. Right? Here's a brand new form. Shiny, new, ready to go. Zeros across the board. There's absolutely nothing in this form that has no value follows Metcalfe's law. Does anyone know what Metcalfe's law is? Okay, a couple of people. For the rest of you, Metcalfe's law is an idea brought up by Bob Metcalfe, who invented Ethernet. It says that a network grows more powerful every time someone new joins to it. Classic example is the fax machine. There's one fax machine in the world. It's not very useful. But every single person who buys a new fax machine not only gets value out of it, but the network gets more valuable too. Because now everyone else who's got a fax machine has some more utility out of it. Social media is exactly the same way. It obeys Metcalfe's law. The more people that you have in your network, the more useful it is. So what does it have to do with the inheritance of awesome? There are lots of things that are not social. Right? This is a picture that Bryce took on 4th of July. Great, great picture. It's not social. Right? There's absolutely no way for this picture to communicate itself to lots of people. There's no way for it to spread on its own. But it inherits social properties because it is awesome. Okay? Yeah, this is what it looks like on Flickr. Suddenly, Bryce does not necessarily need to be in social media per se. He just needs to be creating things that are awesome. And the networks that form around it inherit, grant their social powers to this object. So that's case point. You have a hammer, right? The hammer has the same value, whether one person uses it, whether a million people use it, whether 10 million carpenters use it. It's still a hammer, right? But if it's really, really, really awesome, lots and lots of people use it, talk about it, and tell their friends about it. If you are still hesitant about social media, the lesson out of inheritance of awesome is this. You don't need to be in social media, period. You don't have to. It's perfectly okay. Instead, what you have to do is create things that are awesome. Completely, totally awesome. Because social networks will take care of it for you. There's even one person in your customer base, in your organization, your group, who is engaged in any of the social stuff. As long as you are doing awesome things, the word will spread. The catch is most people, including myself, don't do awesome things all the time, or even most of the time. In fact, most of the time we do things that suck. So as a result, we're saying, okay, how can I gather more Twitter followers? How can I gather more Facebook fans? Because we fully realize that what we're doing sucks. So if you can, spend more time doing awesome and less time on Facebook and Twitter. That is what I think of as 6 threads of the future. I want to hear